Welcome in, everybody, to I don't even know what we're going to call this, but this is offensive line grades. We're doing the guards tonight for the NFL. We're doing basically, we call it a top 10 list, but we'll probably vary off of that just a little bit. I am joined by Simon Short tonight. We have been working on this all summer. Simon, how are you, man?
I'm pumped, Ben. Is there a better way to spend the summer than, grinding offensive line tape and talking about Mark Lewinsky versus Chris Lindstrom? I don't think so. I think this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, not that I know of. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. What else? What else would you do?
What our wives and kids feel differently, you think, or no? Do you
Yeah,
think they
probably a
agree?
little.
That's
Probably
why
a
we're
little.
doing this at 11 o'clock at night and not,
Yes.
5 in the afternoon.
And we're doing the tackles next, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you're right.
perfect.
There's a reason we're doing it late. All right. For those of you in the audience, we appreciate you being with us tonight. We'll tell you at the end about all the different content. We have content probably in 5 or 6 different places, and a couple more coming up too. We'll tell you about that at the end. We have done tons of offensive line grades all this summer. We ranked every team in every division. That's all up on whatever platform you are currently watching. It's all up. We've already ranked the top centers in football. We already went through and did an entire NFL rankings list, 1 through 32. We have talked about every single guy who might have any chance of starting this year, at least early in the season, maybe a high riser later we didn't talk about. And we've talked about probably half of the bench players in some detail too. So if you're wanting to know how your team fits in, at least before the injuries start to kick in here, we've already had the Buccaneers injury kick in. So before the injuries kick in, if you want to know how we look at your team or your division, by all means, go check that out tonight. It is the guards. Um, Simon, go ahead and give us. Tell you what, just give us your number. I think we're agreed on the top four. We just did talk before
Yep.
this video. We discovered we had the same top four. So give me your top four.
Yeah, so in order 1 to 4, I have Zach Martin of the Dallas Cowboys, Quentin Nelson of the Indianapolis Colts, and then both 3 and 4 representing the Cleveland Browns, Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. Um, Martin is still just the cream of the crop. I mean, he's got literally everything you want. I even saw him play left tackle at some point in the last year or two. So this guy is just the perfect offensive lineman. I don't think I think if we were to grade all offensive linemen across the board, that's top 1 or 2 guy for sure. Quentin Nelson, I have two. Really just barely a step below Martin, and if it weren't for health, he probably would be in more of a conversation for right there at one. I think the health, some injuries plagued him last year, and just some inconsistency with the group the Colts had as a whole, kind of dropped him down a bit. You could even put him at 3, where I have Joel Bitonio and Bitonio and Teller. Man, those guys are just like, what do they call them in the Mighty Ducks, the Bash Bros or what? Just like those two just running around, knocking heads off. Just really, really good in the run game, good in the pass pro. But Nelson and Martin are elite at both run blocking and pass blocking. Teller and Batonio, elite run blockers and very good pass blockers. So I have them just a touch below 1 and 2. They're at 3 and 4.
Totally agree on the top four. And again, we did not discuss our list in weeks gone by, but we just did find out right before we started this video that our top four were the same. So I've got Zach Martin at number one. If you want to see a true clinic on how to anchor, nobody does it better currently than Zach Martin. There is not a single player in the NFL who anchors better in pass protection than Zach Martin. He is absolutely the best. Right behind him is Quentin Nelson, who I think, as long as injuries don't derail his career, he is starting what looks to be a Hall of Fame track. And I hate to put that on anybody this young, but Quentin Nelson is showing us just that. Joel Bitonio is doing a lot the same thing. Probably still needs to add to that, but Bitonio is just right up there. And then Wyatt Teller, you already mentioned him. Love Teller at number four. Number 5 and 6, we're just a little bit different. We have them flipped. Go ahead and introduce our audience to number 5 and 6 guards in the NFL.
Yeah, so 5 and 6. Here at 5, I have Joe Tooney, just the super duper solid, reliable. Can do everything you need him to do at guard. Isn't going to be the best at it, but he's going to do it the most consistently, week in and week out, year after year. And at 6, I have Brandon Sheriff, who, when he's healthy and on the field, he's right up there with those top 4. I would have him at 5 if he was available more. But unfortunately, the injuries in his career are starting to pile up. Played 11 games last year, hasn't played more than 13 games since 2017, hasn't played a full season since 2016. So for me, it was really, hey, him and Tooney, I have to factor, okay, it's going to be Brandon Sheriff and his backup for 4 or 5 games versus Joe Tooney for 17 games. Which would I rather have as a fan, as a quarterback, as a coach? We could really get into the weeds, into the minutia of like, hey, depending on your style, you might rather have. But at the end of the day, I know Joe Tooney's going to be there. I mean, let me pull up his games played. I mean, it's just that's 17. He's never missed a game. Ben, he's never missed a game. 2016 to 2020, he played 16 games, started 16 games. And in 2021, 17 and 17. At that point, I would just rather have Tooney at this stage of their career. So I have Tooney 5, Sheriff 6. But Sheriff, when he's on the field, doesn't show that age. It's not like he's a lesser version of himself when he plays. The guy can still pull. The guy can still get out to the second level. He can still move like he did 3 years ago, 5 years ago. It's just a matter of literally being available and on the field puts him at 6 for me instead of 5 with Joe Tooney.
Totally agree with everything you're saying, even though I have those two guys switched. But you're right. Brendan Sheriff, talent-wise, is the better of the two players. When he's healthy, you put him right up there with those top 4, somewhere, maybe right there with Teller, I guess, probably, and behind those top 3. But you're right. I like what you're saying. You have to take into account the fact that Sheriff, for 4 years now, has not been able to play a full season. So it's Sheriff for 12, 13 games, plus his backup for 4 or 5 games, compared to Joe Tooney for the entire season. So that has to be taken into account. Totally agree with what you're saying. I've got Sheriff at 5 and Tooney at 6. Tooney, by the way, Tooney is, and just so the audience understands, when we talk about Tooney's consistency, we're not just trying to say that he's just a lunch pail guy. He's a significantly above average guy who also brings his lunch pail to work every day. Very good talent. I love Tooney's ability to help people. You watch him help. He helped. One reason that Creed Humphrey looks so good is that Tooney helps so much in there. And Tooney helps Orlando Brown at left tackle. Tooney on basically every play is helping one of the others, those two guys. Tooney can be beaten by an elite guy across from him. He's not quite Hall of Fame level, but in terms of being just solid, consistent, every single play, every single day, lunch pail, exceptionally good, wins most of his battles, and helps guys on both sides. Love Tooney there at number 6.
Another big point for Tooney. He is now in the Hall of Fame of Patriot players who have left New England and still been good. It's a very short list. So it's a very short list. So especially, offensive linemen, we've seen it. Trent Brown with the Patriots now, started there, bad with the Raiders for like a year and a half, back with the Patriots, and he's pretty good again. So hats off to Joe Tooney. That alone puts him, I think, in the top 5.
You were going to have me weed walking here, man, but I got to throw it in. I can't tell you how many former Patriots assistant coaches or former Patriots front office people have gone to work somewhere else and kind of tried to install the Patriot way somewhere else. But basically all they're doing is bringing over former Patriots players and paying those players a whole heck of a lot more money than the Patriots were ever willing to do, which is basically the opposite of the Patriots way. So I hate to tear it down, but you're not doing it the Patriots way when you do that. But you're right. The list of players for the Patriots have gone to other places and still look just as good. As a short list. It's a very short list.
For sure.
And Tooney's on that list. After number 6, though, you and I discovered right before we did this video that we both reached one conclusion. There are 6 guys up there at the top. And after that, it all goes to crap. It all completely falls apart. You and I have not completely. We have a lot of different players in our next top 4 or 5, say numbers 7 through 11, something like that. And a lot of the lists that we looked at after we had put together our own had a lot of different choices going down, to the next 15 or 20 guys. So we recognize that we're starting to step into a cloud here. Go ahead and introduce the audience into your next level of guys here at guard.
Yeah. So when I was putting this together, I was trying to think of it one of 2 ways. And when I doing these individual lists, grading the individual player, I thought of it differently than I did our team list. So if you're out there watching this, you're one of the weirdos like us who probably watched all the other ones, or at least some of the other ones. I valued the young guys that I was expecting to take another step really highly. In the team setting, because it was like, hey, for the team this year, you have 17 games, yada yada. What's the offensive line going to look like by week 17 of the playoffs? That's how I was thinking about it. For these individual players, I was more grading this on almost like as basic as you get with like building the guy in Madden, right? Okay, this is his run blocking, this is pass blocking, what's his score, and that's it. So when I did the list that way, and that was how I had it up until this morning, really up until a half hour ago, I had a lot more veteran guys who were just solid players, right? So at first, this is where I had guys like Alex Kappa, Mark Lewinsky, Chris Lindstrom, just solid guys who have been around for a couple of years, that have some good traits. But the more film I watch, especially today, and then talking to you, Ben, about just, hey, doing this, you really have to just value what you value. There are some really talented young guards out there, and that's my next group here. 7 to 9 are all second-year guys going into this year that I think are going to be in talks with those top 6 by the end of the year. So 7 to 9 in order. I have Elijah Vera Tucker of the Jets, Landon Dickerson of the Eagles, and Trey Smith of the Chiefs. Vera Tucker is a guy that by the end of the year was showing a lot of anchor, a lot of power in the run game, and good mobility. I haven't been paying attention to the Jets training camp all that much, but I can say that they were comfortable with the idea of moving him from left guard to right guard this year because they want him next to Mekhi Becton, and they're moving Becton to right tackle. So the idea of his flexibility, and the fact that he was just solid in everything by the end of the year, and his physical traits that he has, I have a lot of high hopes for. Landon Dickerson, I have at 8. Already an elite run blocker, had some inconsistencies in pass pro, but I think part of that is the style of play the Eagles have, where they're doing a lot of bubble screens, a lot of outside dump offs to the running backs, right? When they're passing into the running back, it's not over the middle too often. It's kind of out in the flat. A lot of rollouts, a lot of things where the quarterback is working to the outside. So it's hard. It's not so much Dickerson is getting to get set, anchor, and take on a defensive tackle one-on-one. You don't see that too often. But I'm thinking he's going to take a big leap this year. And then at 9, I have Trey Smith, who shows flashes of both of those guys, just with a little more inconsistency. I think he has more technique than both of those guys when he uses it. And it's just a little more inconsistent when he doesn't. But he has a really good chop. He has good hand usage. He has really good feet when he remembers to use them. But when those things slip, that's obviously when he tumbles down to here at 9, instead of if he used that technique every single time, his talent level, his athleticism, his strength, all of those natural abilities. And I'm not saying he's just a natural guy. The technique that he uses also, when he uses it better than a lot of these guys. And I think we could see that from him this year. So I have him at 9. 10, rounding it out, I just have old school blue collar people mover Roger Saffold. Is a veteran. He's played a lot of years in this league, was with the Titans most recently. He's going to the Buffalo Bills. I think that's going to be a great addition for them. And just, man, old school. You turn on the tape and you're going to see this guy throw a couple people to the ground. Not as athletic as he once was. I saw him on the ground a little bit more than I think you would like from an offensive lineman in a couple of games I watched, but that was more he just ran into piles and got tripped up. Not so much he was playing off balance or anything, but you can just see those hints of the age, which is what kind of puts him at 10 for me behind the young guys. But still a really good2 big guy for a guard, which I love. Uses his length really well in pass pro, and then gets after it in the run game. So two little different schools of thought there for 7 to 9 and then 10. But I think Saffold still has that push that you kind of like a little more than some of those other vets that I had, in that 11 to 15 range.
I really think I hear a lot of people in our audience right now asking us to do a separate video just on Roger Saffold, just me and you breaking down the film on Roger Saffold.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. We'll do it right now. That's fine.
Do you remember something called Mr. Science Movie Theater? Have you ever seen that at all?
That sounds really, that sounds familiar.
Okay, so basically I'll tell our audience, for those of you who haven't, it's basically 2 or 3 aliens or something sitting in the front row of a movie theater, and they are talking nonstop through some really bad B and C movies and just all kinds of smart aleck stuff. Well, I envision you and I sitting on the front row of a movie theater, but watching Roger Saffold film here and telling the audience, yes,
I would love that. That sounds like a lot of fun. We could rent out a theater pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So
hey
anyway,
guys, we want Theater 13, and here's the film we want you to watch. It's called Roger Saffold Highlights. Don't worry about it. Just leave us alone.
Yeah, we're willing to do that for free, by the way, so you don't have to pay for it. All right, so I also, once you get past the top 6 guards in the NFL, I have a cluster. My personal next tier is 5 guys. Those 5 guys, I didn't even rank them in any particular order. Chargers, Matt Filer. Eagles, Landon Dickerson. 6 guys actually. Chiefs, Trey Smith. Buccaneers, Shaq Mason. Ravens, Kevin Zeitler. And Patriots, Michael Onwenu. You and I have discussed Onwenu at length here. He does not anchor very well, but he gets to the second level and actually blocks very, very well. And he even does a good job on edge rushers with his quick feet. So there's things to like and not like there. But I think the guy that stands out to me, and you already mentioned him, and that is Trey Smith of the Chiefs. Talent-wise, and there was a reason he didn't get drafted in the first round. It was medical issues. But talent-wise, there's no question. He has the potential to be one of the best offensive linemen in football, period. Tackle, guard, center, you name it. His hands are tremendous. He can roll guys. He can spin guys around. You don't see too many people doing that. He can do that very successfully. It's a little bit of old school there. He's a little sloppy. He looked, there were times last year where you could tell like he was kind of trying to hang in there. But then there were a lot of other times where he was putting people on the ground. I mean, talk about pancakes. I have no clue how many pancakes he got. You talk about putting people on the ground. There are times where he looks dominant. So he still has it to prove. But he's the one I get excited about watching him, in that he has the ability to just rocket up this list to, and you even mentioned it, they could push him out the tackle if they wanted to. But I think he's fine at guard, depending on, he's great at guard, depending on what team needs, we'll see. But Trey Smith is the guy who could rocket up this list next year if he can just get more consistent and not, there's just times where he's still just a little sloppy, honestly. Mm-hmm. All right. That's our list. Anything else you want to add or tack onto this list, man?
The guards were so hard for me. I mean, you have guys that I have ranked in like the 20s, but from a grade perspective, yeah, they're right there, the same grade as all these guys for me. I think I'll just throw a little Steeler bias out here. I think I have a Filer bias where I know he's an even better right tackle than he is a left guard. So I see him at left guard. I'm like, hey, man, you're doing great. I'm happy for you. You got the big contract. That's awesome. If you would just go back to right tackle, you'd look even better. And Storm Norton is the bane of my existence.
Which, by the way, they need a right tackle.
They do. They need a right tackle. It really bothers me. Shout out Matt Filer. Love that guy. I believe undrafted.
Yeah, I can't remember. While you look that up, I think for me, I would kick out Filer to right tackle, seal that off.
Yeah.
And then Zion Johnson, move him either side, and then you've got who's the Corey Linsley at center, and then you have one guard who basically I think we both think can be good, and then the other guard spot is just weak. But I think I feel better about a weak guard in between two strong center and tackle positions than I do a weak tackle. But we'll see what the Chargers do with that. They don't seem to be feeling the same way we do on that.
Yeah.
One final thought here. You mentioned that the Eagles playing so much different offense in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that? I'm going to throw out an old school name here that you may or may not even know, because I'm going to show my age here. But how much of what they're doing is based on the fact that Jalen Hurts can do so much sideline to sideline and in the playmaking areas and in the flats, but he does not have the biggest and most accurate arm as you push down the field. He can make some plays. It's not that he can't, but he's not as consistent with those bigger plays. So how much of that do you think the Eagles' offense is because of Jalen Hurts, what his skill set is? And here's the name. The Packers, before Brett Favre, had a quarterback named Don Majkowski. And their offense was a lot like that for an old school version of that. They had a lot of weird plays in which Majkowski, who was pretty mobile for a quarterback back then, he wasn't John Elway mobile, but Majkowski was kind of a mobile guy who could go out in the flat, make some plays. Every once in a while, shoot a ball down the field. But that was kind of Mikowski's thing. It was the Packers thing. It worked. They were reasonably consistent, and then along came the gunslinger Brett Favre, and a lot of that changed. But how on Jalen Hurts' side of things, how much do you think the Eagles' offense cause of that?
Chicken and the egg, right? I think
Right.
Hurts could do a little more than the offense. I think the offense is putting a little bit of training wheels on him where I don't
Okay.
think it's necessary. Is Hurts ever going to be your classic drop back quarterback who can spread it all over the field with every throw? No, probably not. And I actually went back today. I was watching the Bucks playoff game when Troy Aikman was just ripping Hurts for the entire game. But it's because 80% of his throws he's doing behind the line of scrimmage because they're just called bubble screens, which is really, really frustrating to watch. I remember watching the moment, texting Eagles buddies like, I know Hurts isn't a top 5 quarterback, but he can do more than this. You see the plays, especially to the tight ends and the seams. He can make
Right.
those throws, and I think that's why they went and got AJ Brown this offseason. That's a guy that can work over the middle of the field. So even if you're not throwing deep crossers or deep in routes or anything like that from a quarterback perspective, if you could just get AJ Brown to run a little slant and at least use the middle of the field some, and then try to open it up for Devonta Smith on the outside and Goddard going up the seam, I think that'll help. And then, yeah, I think, maybe we can see the offensive linemen do a couple more things where they're in true pass protection and not, technically it's a pass, but this is my, quick feet running out to the right. And that's what you're going to judge on. Don Majkowski, I did not know. Anybody that wants to see a great picture, pull it up on Pro Football Reference. The blonde mullet is a look.
Yes.
Shout out to him for spending some time in Virginia, Fork Union Military Academy for high school after leaving New York, went to UVA. So shout out to him for that. Long career, was in the league for a long time. So yeah, good name. Never heard it.
I'm going to include him in the tags to this video. So somebody out there is going to type in Don Majkowski someday and pull up an offensive lineman video between me and you and think, what the heck? And hopefully they'll watch all the way to the end and see us talk about Don Majkowski.
If you do that, you will find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow because you've gone through every little step this video has, and I just commend you. Like, please comment or something because I need to know who you are. If you watch this entire video and then you hear this story and then you go and click on that guy's name and you go and look at bravo. Was he second in MVP voting one year? 1989.
That's a good question.
He was. Joe Montana
Really?
won it. Don Majkowski was second. He got 6 votes. So, Joe Montana, I don't know who Majkowski was getting those votes from. That's 8% of the votes that year. But yeah, he was second place in MVP. He'll be able to tell his grandkids about it. That's exciting.
That's something to tell the grandkids about because in 1989, you had guys like Phil Simms, John Elway, Jim Kelly, Warren Moon floating around. I mean, Randall Cunningham was playing football then. You had some insane guys, and that doesn't even mention the running backs because running back was big back in the day. That's a big deal.
I'll give you $1 million if you can guess who was third place. And I'll give you a hint and say they were an NFC defensive player.
NFC, Reggie White?
Nope.
NFC defensive player. See, I would have said Bruce Smith if you'd said offense. Bronny Lott, maybe?
Nope.
Okay.
Keith Millard of the Minnesota Vikings. Does that name?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Third place.
Barely. I'm sorry.
What did he do in '89? We're already here. I'm gonna figure this out. He had 18 sacks that year.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, he was a wrecking ball.
That'll do it.
Wow.
That'll do it.
All right.
There's a little treat for you viewers. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was extra. If you came for the offensive line, we gave you some 1989 football as well.
Yeah. If you're here for the offensive line, you're into some weird NFL related stuff anyway, so you probably enjoyed this.
All right. Simon, tell everybody where they can find your different content. Okay.
Oh man. So follow me on Twitter at Simon_Short. Short has 2 T's. You can find my written work. I mainly cover the Steelers, but do a little bit of everything at FinSportsIndustries.com. I have the Simon Short podcast, which right now it's the summer, so we're ranking things. So we're just finding a bunch of different topics and ranking stuff. So be on the lookout for that. That's a lot of fun. Ben, I think we have to plug the new podcast here, man. I think we got to officially break it out. The Phantom Football Podcast is the flagship NFL podcast of the Phantom Sports Industries business, the company, the website. So me, Benjamin Parker here, Ronan Summers, who you've probably seen on this channel a couple times. We're giving you latest news, analysis, and fun conversation every week from the NFL. We record after Monday Night Football. The podcast will come out on Tuesday mornings. So come join us every week where Ben and I will try to have crazy conversations like this, and Ronan will tell us we actually have to talk about, the real football stuff that's happening in 2022 and not 1989.
Right. So that's a ton of content. We have more. If you're probably watching this on Sports and Money, if you are, we have two different channels. I haven't done as much on Sports and Money Kansas City this summer because I've been doing so much else. We have that Sports and Money, just the regular Sports and Money NFL GM. We've also got something called Odds on Favorite, which is a new podcast starting up here. I think we're actually doing video too. Actually, it's 3 NFL games a week, 2 college games a week. We're going to start with the betting line and then just kind of talk about the game from there in general, just to give you a feel for it. And me and Robertson Byer from Phantom Sports will be doing that starting here in a couple of weeks. So that should show up on the podcast at some point, but it will definitely show up here on Sports and Money. It is called Odds on Favorite, NFL and college football. And I think there's more, but that's it for now. Oh, my In the Flat podcast. Yeah,
there you go.
Very set that I'm on. Yeah, so me and Jordan Schultz, me and Tony Kill podcast every week about college football. We've been doing that for almost a year now. We'll keep pushing that. We are so excited because the season is just 2 or 3 weeks away, man. We're almost here.
It's crazy. It's awesome.
All right, everybody, I'm going to find the turn off button. It has been a privilege to have everybody on board tonight. Y'all have a great one. See you next time. Bye.